Harold II Godwinson, elected king by the Witan Royal Council after Edward the Confessor died January 1066, never had a chance to prove himself as a ruler. Although he was an accomplished soldier, even his military skills could not deal with the situation in England. The following autumn, when he was invaded by two rivals with large, powerful armies, one belonged to Harald Hardrada, hard ruler, King of Norway, who intended to reclaim the throne that had once belonged to Canute. Harold Godwinson defeated and killed Hardrada at Stamford Bridge in September, but then had to march 402 kilometres southwards to meet the invading army of William of Normandy. William, furious at being cheated of the throne Edward Confessor promised him, fought and killed the exhausted Harold at Hastings in October, and so ended Anglo-Saxon rule in England. Fascinating stuff, eh? Well, every reader has, of course, those books they feel have shaped them, ones that take you right back to childhood, and they made you the person who you are today. And if you grew up in Britain, chances are that some of those books had that little red and white logo at the bottom corner. And if you're thinking Ladybird books, you'll be absolutely right. Small, sturdy, absolutely everywhere when I was a child anyway. These books were a huge part of my reading life and had a big impact on me in my early years and probably beyond. Hello.
These pages tell my story. They shape who I am.
Hello everybody, welcome to and welcome back to my channel, Book Time with Elvis, with me, Mark, and to another edition of Books That Made Me. And today I'm going to be talking about, sorry for the glare there, the Ladybird books. See, there we go. And I have only one with me. I think I have the Three Little Pigs somewhere in a box, but I only have this one, and it's been through the wars a little bit. And I only ever had actually book one. I don't ever remember having book two. I did have loads of Ladybird books, but I don't know for some reason why I didn't have book two of the Kings and Queens of England. And just to show you that actually I have in here my name and my class. So that puts it at, 1986, I suppose? Something like that. So yeah, so Ladybird books, you probably know them. I'm not sure how big they were in America, but certainly they were huge, huge in Britain. And actually just surprised me that they used kilometres in that rather than miles. So that's kind of interesting. But Ladybird books were brilliant because they covered everything. You know, if you loved fairy tales, they had fairy tale versions. If you were learning to read, they had the Peter and Jane books and Pat, I think, the dog. And it would be like, you know, see Pat run, you know, Jane runs, you know, that kind of stuff. And I learned to read and write with them, you know, so they were quite repetitive, I suppose. As I say, look, Jane, look, see the dog run, which maybe isn't the most spellbinding kind of storytelling, but it worked. You know, I was reading and writing before I started school, which these days seems rather rare, but I don't think it was that particularly rare when I was a kid, but I don't know. Of course, if you like history, they did huge series on different histories. There were pretty much Ladybird books for every, at least British historical figure, ranging from the likes of Queen Elizabeth I all the way through to Florence Nightingale. They had books on science and technology that explained how computers work and how nuclear power worked, because of course that's what every child needs to know as they settle down for some bedtime reading. But the one that has stuck with me most, and probably the only one that actually survives with me from childhood, were the history ones, and particularly this one here of the Kings and Queens of England Part 1. And it takes us through not just from King Harold, who I mentioned there, but it starts off with you know, an element there before the Kings and Queens, and of course when the island of Britain was divided into different kingdoms. The first king they do go on about, though, of course, is Alfred the Great, he who burnt the cakes, and it doesn't seem that there's a picture of that there. And that's another thing about them that I really like, is the illustrations. So this is definitely one that really stuck with me, and a book that I think shaped me because it instilled in me a fascination and love of history that continues to this day. Another, I think also it was a two-parter, but I may be wrong, that I absolutely adored from Ladybird books were The Great Composers. And they would contain little bios of all those wonderful composers, which of course also impacted me as somebody who really loves classical music even to this day. So, they were easy to carry around. I'm pretty sure I would have taken this in the car on several occasions, taken it on holidays. That's probably why it's got, it's a bit bent, because, it may well have been in pockets and goodness knows what else. But, yeah. Thoroughly recommend them if they still exist. I know the company does still exist, but I don't know if they exist in the same form and same way that they did when I was a child. I know recently when I was looking it up, there were complaints over the reading series, because of course it's very, very white middle class English. All the children are blonde haired, blue eyed, and mummy, daddy, and that kind of thing. So probably a little bit outdated for today's children. The books themselves go back to 1915, although the company, I believe, was formed back in the 19th century. It wasn't really until the 1940s that these books became the childhood staple that people of my age and older knew and loved. Really, they were cheap, so they weren't expensive to buy, beautifully illustrated, and designed to educate children without talking down to them. And I think in that era, that us dinosaurs who grew up in the age before the internet, they were a very easy way for us to learn about the world, whether it be history, culture, science, technology, basic skills of reading and writing. They were very easy for us to get a hold of and to use, and to allow us to, educate ourselves without the easy accessibility of all that information we find on the internet. And as I said, they are still going today, although they do have apparently an added twist. There is a Ladybird book. There are Ladybird books for grown-ups, which is kind of interesting. Maybe that's to appeal to those grown-ups who were children when these things were de rigueur and all the rage and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah, that's another chapter in the Books That Made Me series, the Ladybird books, and in particular, as I say, the history books, and I suppose a shout out to the reading series as well, just purely because it got me. I wouldn't be here today without it, would I? Basically. So you should all be grateful for that. So yes, and as usual, please let me know down below some of the books that shaped you into becoming the wonderful people you are today. Please leave those comments down below. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all again very soon. Do take care. Bye bye.